Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope everyone's doing well. I have a little bit of issue with my voice this week, but I'm not going to let that stop me from rocking the week ahead of me. I'm really excited to reconnect with every one of you after just an incredible week last week. I was away at a training where I was growing in more and more mastery of my own self, my own capacity to live my full potential, and to create an impact in everyone's ability to be able to do that for themselves. So one of the things I just wanted to connect with you all on today was the concept of mastery, and really to have some fun with it, asking the question, what kind of master's degree should you get? Right? And maybe none of you are really considering getting a master's degree. But I want you to connect to the concept of really making your life about an entire curriculum of mastery. And for me, so I've got one of my degrees is in business, bachelor's in business. I've got a master's in business as well. And then I've also got a doctorate in psychology. And all of those things are really, really wonderful and helpful. And I really love to hear about all the different aspects of education that everyone in this group has in their background. But what I want to share with you is what I think is the most important education that we can ever have. And that is to have a master's degree in emotional mastery. So what's really fun about committing to growing in emotional strength and eliminating emotional sensitivity is that you can essentially earn yourself a master's in emotional mastery. So in most everyone's lives, right, we've all been put in school, we've gone through school, we've gotten different certifications, and we've gotten different degrees, and we've maybe been at certain jobs, and we've got different trainings, and we've been a part of a process our whole lives where we are willing to invest ourselves into gaining mastery of things. So when I was younger, all the way through my adult life, one of the things that I was very invested in was becoming a master at basketball, right? So talk about hours and hours and hours. I want to say, hundreds of thousands of hours from the time I was 5 all the way through college, and where I played college basketball, and beyond that, where I played in leagues and things like that. It was about developing mastery. It was about practicing a skill so that when it became game time, I didn't have to think about it. It just happened. And everything in my life, just like I think it's the same way in all of yours, you've been developing skills. You've been getting degrees and things like that. You've been training for aspects of your job so that you could train and ultimately then just be able to do it, right? It just becomes automated in you. And emotional mastery is the same way. So it's not all that different than when you really practice it, just like all those years, and some of you may have done the same, where I practiced and practiced and practiced my 3-point shot. And it was hours. It was every nuance of it. It was figuring out exactly how to do it most easily, the most quickest way to do it, and with other people putting their hand in my face, right? The stress of that happening. And so that was something I was always really committed to do. Just practice and practice so that when it came game time and somebody was guarding me and somebody was trying to get in the way of my shot, and there was just, the crowd was going, wild, and 5,000 different pieces of stimulus around me, that I was already conditioned to simply respond and really facilitate and initiate everything because I've done so much conditioning. And with emotional conditioning, it's the same way, right? What the idea is that when you decide decide to get a master's in emotional mastery, in being able to be in complete charge of yourself, having total control of yourself, your emotions, and your behaviors, it's the same thing. What you do is you put yourself through a training process, you educate, you develop, you practice, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, so that when you're in the middle of everyday life where there are tons of things going on, roadblocks and obstacles and people putting their hands in your face and people putting themselves in your business and just, tons of problems going on day in and day out, all kinds of things we didn't expect, and traffic and just drama, and it doesn't matter, because when you get a master's degree in emotional mastery, then you don't even feel any of those issues. It's like you've been trained to do the 3-point shot and you just know you're going to do it, right? Just like watching all those players in the NBA. There's millions of people watching. There's all kinds of stimulus. There's, commentators and broken ankles and things like that. But there has been an automated way of being able to do something by the sheer mastery process that went into it. So I want everybody to just notice that there's so many things in the world that we are willing to put ourselves into to get better at it, right? I mean, there's so many things. We do it with hobbies. We do it with tennis. Some people do it with dating. I've got friends that are very into, doing this with making sure their sex life is the best it can be. I'm a ballroom dancer, so it's about mastering every bit of practice before that performance so that I'm absolutely able to be in the moment. There's so many things that people do in this life, right? They'll go to school to learn things. They'll go to school to, get degrees and certifications. They'll get their real estate licenses, and we're just a world full of people that are willing to train ourselves on things that we want to be better at, that we just want to know, right? So if you've been, studying your real estate exam and then you're out with some new clients and they're asking you questions, you're not going to be looking at your notes. You're going to be having it inside of you. It's just going to come out. You're going to have that confidence, and you're going to be able to really create, serve your fellow man that way and create that great value there. So what's really interesting to me is that in this world that I grew up in and that we've all grown up in together and that we live in together, for whatever reason, everyone is willing to train themselves on all kinds of things to be better at it. And when we do that, right, we don't say I'm going to go to the gym one day a week and I'm going to look like, some badass fitness person. We don't do that. We don't say, well, I'm going to practice the guitar for half an hour and then I'm going to go play a rock concert. Right? We don't do that. We actually put hours and hours, and we put blood, sweat, and tears into things, and we really invest ourselves into becoming masters of so many different things. And yet there's this one area that I've thought, since the time I was a little kid, it just drove me nuts. I thought to myself, here's my dad, right? He's a world-class athlete. This guy, he was playing back in the day. It was a big deal. It was called fast pitch softball. He played all over the world. He's in the fast pitch softball Hall of Fame. He was constantly swinging a bat. He was, swinging it up and down the hall of my house. He was at batting cages. He was at practice. He was a master, right? He put all of this energy into that. And then as his daughter, he had me put all of my energy into becoming an elite athlete as well. And it was just normative. That's just what we did. That's what it was about. But I always thought to myself when I was a little kid, and even through my adulthood and in my family, you know, the thing that everybody's struggling with the most is their emotions. So way back when I was a little kid, I thought, wow, if anybody needs to practice on anything, it's this whole anxiety thing. It's this whole overwhelm thing. And I just always found that so fascinating. I just remember thinking to myself, all the hours you're putting into, you know, being able to just knock that ball out of the park and have the raving fans go crazy. Wouldn't it be interesting if you were able to learn how to not be anxious? And I just always just thought to myself, well, when I grow up, that's what I want to teach people to do. Because it seems like no matter what anybody's doing, whatever they're learning, whatever fun they're having in life, it seems like one of the main things that I encounter in human beings is that they have never mastered their own emotions and their own behaviors. And it's just a very strange sort of mysterious thing of what we will do, right? Like I said, we won't go to the gym once a week. We don't go to baseball practice once a week. We don't go to work one day a week and try to get something done. But with emotional issues, the big, huge extravaganza of development is go to therapy once per week, right? That's what the big strategy is. And it's just hilarious to me. You're going to go 1 hour per week. None of it's going to be training. You're just going to sit there and vomit all of your pain, all of your problems, all of the horrific things that have happened, and they've been horrific. And somebody's going to kind of help you keep defining the problem like that. That's really awful. Yeah, your mom was an asshole. Yeah, that really sucks. Yeah, your husband should treat you better. All of these things, whatever it is. I hear a lot from our clients. They say, the therapist just says, well, you should just get a new job. Like this is like these great solutions. And meanwhile, nobody's getting any better. And it's because it doesn't line up with mastery, right? It makes no sense to go talk about your problems for an hour and think by any way, shape, or form that you're actually going to become a master of your emotions. You're going to become a master of your own internal experience and how you express that out to the rest of the world, and how that allows you to conduct yourself and focus on what you want and create mastery in every other area of your life, because your emotions are so managed by your own mastery. So I'm really excited to just have you all think about this a little bit. Like, why do we do that? Why when it comes to emotional development, emotional training, and emotional mastery, first of all, is there so much shame around it? And somebody like, no, I don't want to get near that. It's like, hell no, I don't want to go to therapy. I don't even want to say I have a problem. I'm not even going to admit I'm using all these vices. I don't even, I'm trying to like not have a problem because I don't want to have to go to treatment or rehab or therapy or whatever, because the last thing anyone wants to do is admit that they have any emotional problems or behavioral issues, addictive issues, or just, any of these kinds of issues that people struggle with. So every other area we're like okay with this, but in the area that all human beings struggle with the most, and the area that is the most important for human beings to master, we literally have no cultural norm or setup or way for people to, from the get-go, become emotionally trained and basically have the emotional mastery that they need to have to enjoy every single moment of their life and being able to live their full potential as a person. So nowhere in our culture, other than what we do, by the way, are people able to get a master's degree in emotional mastery, which is the foundation that is needed to master everything else in your life. right? So when you have emotional mastery and you've essentially been trained at the master's status, then guess what? You then have financial mastery, and you have relational mastery, and you have sexual romantic mastery, and you have friendship mastery, and you have getting promotions in your career mastery, and you have whatever hobbies you want to do and you want to be good at, you have that kind of mastery. You have, how about this one, really important, when you have emotional mastery, you have parental mastery. And when you have emotional mastery, you just translate that and give that to your kids, who, if they don't have emotional mastery, then they're going to be going through school suffering and struggling and in pain and suffering, and their whole life is going to have that pattern of the pain and suffering that happened from the time they were a little kid. So I don't know about all of you, but I've just never thought that any of this made sense, which is why, since the time I was young, I've been devoting myself to having absolute emotional mastery and to be able to be essentially a master of my emotions, and essentially to have a degree in emotional mastery. It's also what I realized, hi Dina, it's also what I realized years ago when I was working in the corporate field and I was teaching managers how to have their top potential outcomes, meet the company goals, and I was managing managers of managers, right? Every single bit of it was about getting them to master their emotions, to let their employees master their emotions, and to have this whole trickle-down effect, right? So there was always this case of wanting there to be a higher level of emotional mastery in order to live my potential, be able to get all the people that worked for me to live their potential. And I did that also in the early years of being a psychologist. So early on, what I recognized is that if people came into my practice and we were just going to talk about all of their problems all the time, and then just deal with that until the next week when they came back with the next set of problems, that they were not going to gain any ground anywhere. So I made a decision as an intern that everything I did was going to be about emotional training. Because what I wanted was, if my clients were only going to get to see me once per week back then, I was going to have them get trained an hour per week so that each week I was developing more and more emotional strength for them. But I began to realize, like, this is kind of crazy, right? Again, you don't go to the gym and work out for an hour and then have like the perfect beach body, as they say. It doesn't work like that. What you do is you go with consistency and you develop fitness, and it's the same way for developing emotional fitness. You do it consistently so that in the workout space, you would get your body to a certain point, and then you just work to maintain it, because that's the strength that you've built. So that's why I went down a path with the company that I have and how we evolved, how we help people, which is that we basically created the ability for people to receive a master's degree in their emotions and behaviors, so that instead of spending the rest of their life dealing with these struggles and having it impact them all over the place in their life, that they could come into our program for a short period of time and go through this transformational instruction, this emotional strengthening, and gaining that emotional mastery so that it could be done, right? So that could be all strengthened up, and then everything from there on out was just maintenance, because that transformation had happened. That mastery process had taken place. And like all mastery processes where they actually officially give you a degree, nobody can ever take that away, right? And in the world of getting degrees or getting certifications, and people go and they use those in their life, then what happens is there's that. You're using it every day of your life and your work, and it's bringing something to you, and it's developing more for your life, and it's a beautiful piece of leverage that carries you throughout your life. So for any of you that are struggling with your emotions, you're struggling with depression, you're struggling with anxiety and overwhelm and volatility and anger and exhaustion and everything that is just so uncomfortable when we don't have emotional mastery, right? And for any of you that are struggling with all the behaviors that come along with this, right? Like procrastination and lack of focus and follow through and using things that are hurting your body, eating more food than you should, buying more than you should, drinking more than you should, or just doing things that are not in your best interest. For any of you that are struggling with this, just know that this is not because there's something wrong with you. This is because we've never in our culture had an educational system or a process for people to truly develop the emotional education that they need to be able to have a foundation to live their life from. A foundation of mastery, the most important skill set a human being could ever have. Emotional mastery is the foundation for everything. So just because none of us ever got that, and just because we've all been trying to get through life operating, I used to joke, like, I'm operating this machinery without a manual. I used to joke about myself. Just because we've been operating heavy machinery without a manual and without clarity doesn't mean we have to continue to do that ongoing. Because that's why I made it a really easy process for people to go from wherever they are with whatever emotional issues, behavioral problems, vices, addictions, whatever it is, for people to go from, again, depression, anxiety, borderline personality, bipolar, any of these constellation of symptoms that are nothing more than a lack of emotional mastery, right? They're emotional sensitivity without emotional mastery. For anybody to be able to go from where you are there, where you're struggling there, to be able to be living with the highest emotional mastery possible, with essentially graduating with a degree at the top field in the world of being a human. We made it so that you can do that really, really easily and enjoyably. So for any of you that may want to check out what it would be like to be emotionally masterful, to essentially graduate in a short period of time with a degree in emotional mastery, essentially the greatest master's degree you could ever have, we'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you haven't watched our training where I go into more in depth about these things, I'm going to post that link for you so you can look at some of the things that I'm talking about. But in the meantime, I really want everyone to consider that we're not talking about spending your life focusing on all of the problems and all of the pain and the trauma and the PTSD and the molestation and the violations and the rapes and the emotional neglect and the abuse and all of those things that are profoundly painful. We're not talking about that process, because that process doesn't bring about emotional empowerment. It doesn't produce anything for people. We're talking about a process of building emotional strength and building you into an emotional powerhouse, not so that you can throw your weight around in a bad way, but so that you can be so solid that you can live your life on solid, stable ground and live out that purpose that you're meant to live and live that full potential without a rocky foundation under you that makes things more difficult than they need to be, right? So whatever you've thought about in your life, right, that life is hard, life is difficult, life is work, It's not the case. That's only the case when you're missing the most essential component to human functioning that there is. And that is having the highest emotional capacity you can have for yourself. So if you're missing that, it'll feel like life is difficult because there's just part of you that just hasn't been developed yet. But with that, life can actually be a really wonderful ride, a really wonderful experience, real collaborative process with people, because you have all of the components you need to bring your A game to everything. So I look forward to hearing from any of you that have any questions, that want to find out more. You know, if you book a call with us, it's a really simple process. We look at what it is that's not working for you in your life. We look at where you're struggling and where there are the cracks in that emotional foundation and where it's not as strong as you'd like it to be. And then we really look at where are the areas that you would want to develop in your emotional foundation. What do you want to be different? How do you want to be able to feel? How do you want to be able to conduct yourself? What is it that you want to create in life from a strong emotional foundation? And we just take a look at those things. We just take a look at that, and we just recognize, you know, is this something that we can help you with? Is it something that you want help with? And if we can show you, if we can help you, then we'll go ahead and show you how. And if for any reason it's not a fit, then, you know, we just part friends and we stay connected and we keep growing and developing here together. So, you know, the goal here would be that you get massive clarity, major value from the experience, and have the potential to be someone that has the opportunity to develop the highest emotional mastery that you possibly can. It's just an option to consider if it's something that you're interested in. So for any of you that feel, you know, intimidated or hesitating, it's just a phone call. It's just us looking to see if what you need is what we can help you with. And quite honestly, we're really, in a big way, just looking to see also, are you even a fit for us, right? Is what you need a fit for us? So for any of you that would like this help, for any of you that want things to be different, for any of you that are just holding back for whatever reasons it might be, I really want to invite you to give yourself that opportunity to give us a chance to talk about what it would be like for you to live with emotional mastery. I look forward to hearing from all of you. I look forward to sharing more great updates this week and providing value and things for you to think about so that you can really gain control of yourself, live your full potential as a person, and totally take charge of your destiny. Look forward to talking to you all soon, and I'll see you toward the end of the week. Bye-bye.